This happened almost 15 years ago. I was 32, just back from being a Marine. I thought writing would help me work through everything. I decided to go back to Kunar Valley for an article about strange things we experienced during my deployment in 2008. Upon arrival, I felt the weight of the mountains looming over me. It felt heavy, almost like the remnants of war were hanging in the air. I set up my base in a small village. The locals were friendly but distant. They didn't seem eager to talk. I tried to approach them about my plans, but they looked at me like I was a ghost. I began interviews, hoping to piece together my memories. As I wrote notes, I heard whispers in the distance. Was it just the wind? Or was my mind just playing tricks? Around midnight, I stepped outside. I noticed footsteps, light but persistent. I didn't see anyone. My heart raced. Was I scaring the villagers away with my questions? I heard stories from my fellow Marines. Bizarre things they witnessed. Shadows flying past them, voices they couldn't place. They talked about these incidents casually, as if they were just part of the job. I didn't want to believe it. Maybe they were all seeing things because of stress. That night, everything was silent, too silent. I was lying on my cot when I heard someone call my name, Eric. It was soft and almost gentle. I jumped up, confused and scared. I listened closely, but all I heard was my own heartbeat. I checked outside again, and darkness wrapped around me like a blanket that I wanted to shake it off. It was probably the altitude messing with me. But deep down, something didn't feel right. I thought of my friends from the unit. Were we all crazy? The next day, I returned to the spot where I heard my name. I felt a chill run down my spine. I turned my head to the side. A figure darted just out of sight. I felt something tighten in my chest. I blinked hard, trying to catch my breath. Then it happened again. Eric. I froze. I looked behind me, half expecting to see someone. I was alone, but my senses told me otherwise. A part of me wanted to run. I didn't understand what was happening, but my feet wouldn't move. I felt the familiar pressure of being watched, that heavy gaze again. I swallowed hard, searching the shadows. Maybe it was just a trick my mind was playing on me. As I stood there, something pulled at me. Was it a call from the past? A warning? I didn't know. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't budge. The connection to the valley drew me in deeper. The truth I sought felt closer, but something sinister lurked in the shadows. As I stood, I realized the valley was urging me to uncover the truth. Or maybe it wanted to drive me mad. Either way, I knew I couldn't escape. The following day, I woke up with the sun blazing through the thin walls of my tent. The light felt harsh, almost aggressive. I decided to visit the village and talk to a few of the locals again. Maybe they could shed light on the rumors that floated through the air like smoke. As I walked down the dusty path, I noticed how quiet the village was. Normally, there would be chatter, kids playing, or animals roaming. But today, it felt like the calm before a storm. I spotted a group of men sitting under a tree, whispering amongst themselves. I approached with cautious hope, trying to break the ice. "Hello," I said, hoping for a warm response. "I'm Eric. I'm a writer. I'd like to hear about your experiences in the valley." Their eyes shifted to me, wary but curious. One of them, an older man with deep lines around his eyes, finally spoke. "Many things are better left unsaid." I nodded, attempting to encourage him. "I understand, but sometimes sharing can help. I heard strange stories from the Marines who were here years ago." At that, the group exchanged glances. The man leaned in closer, lowering his voice. "Words have power, Eric. Not all stories should be told. Some things seek attention." I felt a knot in my stomach. "What do you mean?" Before he could answer, a sharp scream pierced the air from somewhere beyond the village. The men stood up, their faces draining of color. They turned away from me, eyes wide with fear. I instinctively followed their gaze. In the distance, a figure emerged, moving quickly through the tall grass. The villagers began to murmur amongst themselves in hushed tones, their eyes darting toward me and back to the figure. The old man stepped back, fear now evident in his posture. "You shouldn't be here," he said, stepping further away. I took a deep breath, trying to compose myself. Curiosity pulled me closer to where the figure had vanished. Against my better judgment, I started toward the area, my heart pounding. That's when I saw it. A flash of bright fabric caught in the brush. I stepped closer, struggling to see clearly. It looked like a combat vest, one I recognized from my time in the service. My skin prickled with unease. What was a vest doing out here? As I crouched down to examine it, I heard my name again, Eric. I jerked back, looking around. No one was there. Panic surged through me. Was it the same voice from last night? I couldn't stay here, yet my feet felt rooted to the ground. A chill ran down my spine. I pulled the vest into view, and in one of the pockets, I found a folded piece of paper. I hesitated but knew I needed to look. As I unfolded it, I felt the weight of something ancient behind me, a presence that sensed I was trying to uncover something darker than I had anticipated, and then everything went dark. When I opened my eyes, I was still crouched in the grass, the vest locked in my grip. The world came into focus, but it felt skewed. Panic clenched my chest like a vice. I quickly scanned the area around me. The village looked untouched, but the air felt heavy, charged with the echoes of something I could not see. The folded paper flapped in the breeze as I held it tightly. Taking a deep breath, I forced myself to look again. It wasn't just a piece of paper, it was a message. The handwriting was jagged, frantic almost. The words blurred together as I read, "Beware the silence that follows. Shadows linger, they watch." I shuddered. It didn't make any sense. I stood up, shaking off the dread that clawed at my mind, and tucked the paper back into my pocket. I had to find someone who could help me make sense of it all. As I turned to retrace my steps to the village, I caught a glimpse of movement in the corner of my eye. A shadow, darting between the trees. Instinctively, my heart raced again. Something was out there, and it was watching. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling slightly. There was no response, just an oppressive silence that swallowed the air. I hesitated, wondering if I should go after it. Maybe it was just my imagination, yet every rational thought faltered under the weight of my unease. As I made my way back toward the main square, the villagers were nowhere in sight. The path felt longer than before, each step echoing in the stillness. I suddenly remembered the old man's warning. I recalled his words, "Some things seek attention." What if I had drawn the attention of something I couldn't comprehend? Reaching the square, I spotted a woman milling through the empty stalls, her face pale and her eyes scanning the ground. "Excuse me," I said, but she jumped at the sound of my voice. She turned to me, her expression one of sheer terror. "Have you seen it?" she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. "Seen what?" I asked, my confusion piling on top of my anxiety. "The figure in the grass. The one that roams at night." She pointed towards the tree lean, her hand trembling. "They say it comes for you if you linger too long. It takes what it wants." My instincts screamed at me to run, but I was rooted to the spot. I needed answers. "What do you mean? What does it take?" Before she could respond, a low growl rippled through the air, sending goosebumps racing down my arms. The sound wasn't human. It was raw and primal, reminding me of something I had hoped to leave behind. "Get away from here," the woman warned, her eyes wide with fear. "You've disturbed it." That's when I felt the unmistakable sensation of being watched. I turned slowly, scanning the tree line. And then I saw it. A figure, barely visible among the shadows. Its eyes glinted like dark stars, fixed on me with an unsettling intensity that I backed away instinctively, stumbling over my own feet. Panic surged, and I turned to run, heart pounding. There was no time to waste, something was out there, and it was waiting that I in my haste. I forgot about the vest, the note, and every question I had. All I could think about was getting away before whatever had drawn me here finally made its move. I sprinted down the cobbled path, my breath coming in quick gasps as dread clawed at my back. Each step felt heavier, the weight of something unseen lurking behind me. I glanced over my shoulder, expecting to see the figure bounding after me. But the shadows remained still, their secrets held tight. The main square of the village was devoid of life. Stalls that should have been bustling were eerily quiet, the air thick with uncertainty. I needed to find shelter, to hide from whatever pursued me. I spotted a small building at the edge of the square. It looked like an inn, its exterior worn but sturdy. I dashed toward it, pushing the door open with a force that sent it swinging wide. Inside, the dim light revealed nothing but emptiness. Dust motes danced in the air, and the silence was almost as deafening as the growl I had heard. I hesitated near the entrance. It felt like stepping into a tomb rather than a place of refuge. "Hello." My voice echoed through the emptiness, but only the silence replied. I stepped further inside, scanning for any signs of life. Maybe I could find someone who could explain what was going on, someone who knew about the figure in the grass. As I explored, I stumbled upon a small room off to the side. The door creaked open, revealing a scattered collection of furniture covered in sheets. In the center, a wooden table bore a single, flickering candle. On the table, a journal lay open, pages yellowed with age. I approached cautiously, glancing over my shoulder. The shadows outside seemed to grow longer, creeping toward me as I dared to read the words scrawled within. Entry after entry detailed strange occurrences in the village: disappearances, flickering lights at night, and shadows that seemed to watch from the edges of the forest. The last entry caught my attention. It read, "It comes when the sun sets, taking those who linger. Do not walk alone at dusk, they take what they desire." My heart raced again. The timing of it couldn't have been more fitting. I had lingered too long, drawn in by the village's silence, and now I was feeling the consequences. Suddenly, a loud crash from outside jolted me from my thoughts. The door slammed shut, rattling in its frame. Cold fear washed over me as I turned, my instincts screaming at me to leave. But where would I go? The figure was out there, waiting. That I could hear whispers now, distant and faint, creeping through the walls. The inn felt alive, resonating with a fear that matched my own. My breath quickened, the weight of the moment pressing heavily on my chest. The whispers grew louder, swirling like a storm. And that's when I saw it, a shadow stretching under the door, moving slowly, deliberately. It wasn't he just watching, it was coming for me. With no time left to think, I grabbed the journal and sprinted toward the back door, hoping it would lead to safety. I crossed my fingers, praying the darkness wouldn't follow me. But the air felt electric, charged with the anticipation of something lurking beyond the threshold. Whatever it was, I knew it wasn't finished with me yet. I flung the back door open and rushed into the cool night air. The inn was behind me, its shadow stretching like a hand that wanted to grasp me back in. I took off running, the cobblestones biting at my feet. I didn't dare look back. I could feel the heaviness of the air around me, like it was recoiling from whatever had been lurking inside. The village was a maze of paths, and I had no clue where they led. My focus was on finding a way out, but the whispering wind that shushed between the buildings felt almost alive. I could still hear those eerie voices, barely discernible, but just enough to make me doubt my sanity. Ahead, I spotted another building, this one larger, its windows dark. There might be safety in numbers, or so I hoped. I sprinted toward it, desperation driving me on. As I approached, a flicker of light appeared inside, moving as if someone was walking by a flame. I hesitated at the door, the warmth spilling over me like a promise. But what if it was a trap? Gripping the journal tightly, I pushed the door open. It creaked like a warning. The light that greeted me came from an old lantern, its glow casting dancing shadows across a room filled with shelves of dusty bottles and jars. "Hello?" I called out, my voice wavering. No answer. The room felt like a forgotten place, a relic cloaked in dust. But before I could fully step inside, a rush of wind swept through, slamming the door behind me. I turned quickly, heart pounding. The door wouldn't budge. Panic surged as I yanked on the handle, but it held fast. My breath came in shallow bursts, my only companion the flickering light of the lantern. Then, I heard it again, the whispers. They weren't coming from outside anymore but from within the very walls of this new room. I pressed my ear against the cool wood, hoping to decipher what was being said. "Do not linger, stay close to the fire." The words faded in and out, as if the house had a mind of its own. Just as I pulled away, a figure stepped into the lantern's light. My heart dropped. It was a man, dressed in clothing that looked like it belonged to another time. His expression was hollow, eyes sunken and dark. "You shouldn't be here," he whispered. I stumbled back, gripping the journal tighter. "What do you mean?" I managed to ask, my throat dry. "What is happening?" He took a step closer. "It comes for those who seek, who dig too deep." His gaze shifted to the door, and I sensed he wasn't just warning me, he was terrified. "Who comes?" I pressed, confusion mixing with terror. I had thought I could find answers, but now I only felt the dread wrapping tighter around me. Before he could respond, the whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices rising to a fever pitch. The air shifted, heavy with foreboding. Then it happened. Something crashed into the door behind us, rattling the weak wooden frame. My legs ignited with a burst of panic, and just like that, I was running again. To where? I didn't know. But there was no way I was staying to find out what was waiting. As I bolted for another door in the room, I heard his voice call out one last time, "You mustn't go into the light." I reached for the handle, but the words echoed in my mind, a chilling warning that only fueled my fear. What light? The lantern? Or something else? I pushed the door open and leaped through, into the unseen, a fresh wave of uncertainty crashing around me. I stumbled into darkness, disoriented as the door slammed shut behind me. My hands reached out, brushing against rough walls, my breath quickening. It was pitch black, and for a moment, I was frozen in place. Then, the whispers returned, faint but insistent. I took a step forward, feeling the urgency clawing at my back. The whispers were unmistakably guiding me, urging me deeper into the unknown. "Do not linger," they murmured, a maddening echo in the silence. I fought against the creeping dread and pressed on, my heart hammering in my chest. As I navigated through the dark, I soon felt the ground beneath me give way to the coolness of dirt. A tight tunnel. I didn't know, but I could hear something shuffling just out of reach. Panic ignited again. I had to keep moving. Suddenly, I stumbled into an open space. I blinked hard, letting my eyes adjust to the dim light. Flickering lamps lined the walls, casting just enough glow to reveal strange markings etched all around, symbols I didn't recognize. A shiver ran down my spine as I realized I was no longer alone. Figures moved in the shadows, more spectral than solid. Their outlines were blurry, as if they were afraid to reveal themselves fully. "You should not have come," one hissed, its voice a chilling whisper that slipped through the air. My pulse quickened. "Why?" My question emerged as a croak. "What are you?" "I am what you seek," it replied cryptically. "And what you fear." Before I could press for more answers, the whispers intensified, swirling around me, pulling me in every direction. One voice broke through, clearer than the others. "Take the path to the light." Just as I considered the vague direction of the voice, another figure lunged forward. This one was solid, its eyes wide and wild. "Don't trust it," it shouted. "They will lead you to your end." I froze, caught between two opposing forces. The frantic shuffling beneath my feet began to shift, a rumble that echoed through the small space. My instincts kicked in. What end? I gasped. No time. The wild-eyed figure pointed. You have to get out. With that, the walls trembled, and I felt the ground shake. It was no time to think. I darted toward the nearest flickering light, lunging forward into the brightness, even as the whispers roared around me like a storm. The light was blinding, and as I entered, I was abruptly thrown into a larger chamber. The air was thick with a new kind of energy, buzzing with a familiar tension. I stumbled as I landed on a solid floor, but quickly regained my balance. And that's when I saw a mirror on the wall, old and cracked, reflecting not just me but the figures behind me looming in the doorway, their mouths moving in silent screams that my breath caught as dread settled like ice in my veins. I had stumbled into something much darker than I had anticipated, and the reflection showed more than I could comprehend. Just as horror washed over me, the mirror shimmered, and reality twisted. I felt myself being drawn toward it, a pull I couldn't resist. As I approached the mirror, an overwhelming compulsion seized me. The figures lingering in the doorway faded, their anguished expressions blending into the chaotic swirls of light. I reached out, my fingertips grazing the surface, and instantly, a shock rippled through me. It felt as if time stopped, and the temperature in the air plummeted. Images flashed before my eyes, moments lived and lost in a single heartbeat. I saw the wild-eyed figure I had just encountered, terror washing over its face, echoing the words, "You have to get out." Sounds clashed in my mind, overlapping voices begging for release. Then I saw her, a girl. She was young, perhaps no more than 8, with long dark hair and eyes full of sorrow. She reached out from the depths of the mirror, her hand nearly touching mine, her mouth moving but no words came through. I felt drawn to her, a magnetic pull that threatened to shatter my will. Suddenly, the air shifted. A low growl, deep and guttural, rumbled from behind me. I turned just in time to see a shadow materialize, dark and unfathomable, a creature with elongated limbs and gnashing teeth. My heart raced as panic surged in my chest. The mirror called to me, its surface rippling like water, offering some kind of escape. "Help her!" I cried out, not knowing whom I was addressing. But as I turned back to the mirror, the girl was gone. Panic tightened around my throat, leaving me gasping that I backed away, but the creature advanced with haunting grace, its presence swallowing the light in the chamber. My instincts screamed at me to flee, but my body felt frozen. I was trapped between the mirror's pull and the lurking danger behind me. I glanced around, searching for an exit. Then I noticed the symbols on the walls glowing faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. I took a desperate step toward them, remembering the whisper urging me to find the light. "Where are you?" I whispered to the shadows, hoping for guidance. The growl intensified, sending a shiver down my spine, and I knew I had to act. I reached out to a nearby symbol, tracing its intricate designs with my fingers. As I did, warmth spread from my touch. The symbols came alive, a soft hum reverberating through the air. I felt the atmosphere shift, and the creature hesitated, fear creeping into its features. I had no time to waste. I needed to unleash whatever magic lay hidden in these markings. Focusing my energy, I whispered the thoughts that raced in my mind, "Guide me. Show me the way." The hum grew louder, resonating through the chamber, and the walls vibrated with anticipation. The creature recoiled, its eyes narrowing in rage. "You think you can escape?" It hissed, and I felt every ounce of its threat wrap around me. Just as the creature lunged, I stumbled backward, falling against the symbols. Suddenly, a blinding light erupted, filling the room, shielding me. As I shielded my eyes, I felt a surge of power roaring through me, breaking the creature's grasp. But in that moment, everything changed. I was being pulled back toward the mirror, the light enveloping me like a shroud. "No!" I screamed, but the darkness clung to me, wrapping like vines and drawing me in, deeper and deeper, that I could feel the anger of the creature behind me, the echoes of the whispers growing distant. And then silence fell, thick and heavy, as if the world was holding its breath, waiting for what would come next. I awoke with a gasp, the chill of the air biting at my skin. I was lying on a cold stone floor, disoriented. The last thing I remembered was being pulled into the mirror, and now, I was here wherever that was. The chamber around me was smaller than before, dimly lit by flickering torches on the walls that I pushed myself up, my heart racing. Where am I? I muttered, my voice echoing slightly. I scanned my surroundings. The walls were covered in more symbols, but these were different, more jagged, less inviting. That's when I noticed the girl again, her face peering at me from the corner of the room, her features illuminated by the flickering light. I blinked, and she was gone. My pulse quickened. I needed to find her. Suddenly, a low rumble resonated through the floor, shaking me to my core. The sounds were unmistakable voices. I strained to listen, but they were muffled as if they were coming from another dimension. I felt a pull to follow them. Ignoring the growing dread in my stomach, I moved toward the source. As I stepped carefully, the air thickened. I could hear snippets of words, please, and desperate cries swirling around me. Help us, trapped, lost. Each word felt like a weight pressing down on my chest. Then I saw it, a door at the far end, cracked open just a sliver, whispering promises of escape. I rushed forward, driven by urgency. My hand barely grazed the ancient wood when a sharp sound sliced through the air, a piercing shriek that silenced the murmurs. My heart jumped. I stumbled back as shadows twisted and contorted. They emerged from the walls, ghastly forms that seemed to be torn from nightmares. Panic surged through me. Get away! I shouted, my voice trembling. The shadows lunged, and I realized they weren't just phantoms. They were tethered to the place, pulled into existence by the same dark force that had previously chased me. I could feel a pulse of energy surrounding me, echoing the symbols I had touched before. Instinct took over. I remembered the warmth, the hum from the other chamber. I closed my eyes and focused. Guide me! I cried, desperation clawing at my throat. Keeping my palms open, I tried to connect with the energy again, summoning it from the depths of fear, but nothing happened. The shadows closed in, their textures swirling, threatening to engulf me. I felt my resolve wavering. Please! I begged, not knowing if I was speaking to the symbols or the girl. Help me find her. The shadows paused, hovering just out of reach. I gasped as a glimmer of light caught my attention. It flickered across the far wall, revealing a new symbol, exotic and vibrant, unlike the others. It pulsed softly, inviting me in. That's when I saw her again, standing beside the symbol. This way, the girl mouthed, her eyes pleading. The shadows resumed their advance, angry and relentless. I took a deep breath and dashed for the symbol, ignoring the chill creeping up my spine. As I reached it, I felt an electric surge rush through me. The girl's gaze locked with mine, full of hope. But suddenly, a dark figure flickered into view, blocking my escape. You will not escape this time. It growled, teeth bared and ready to strike. I stood frozen, heart hammering in my chest, realizing I had only moments to act. I had to choose: stay and fight this dread or trust the girl and the light. My instinct screamed at me to push through. As the shadows lunged, I let go of fear and made my choice. The light burned brighter, and I felt my body lift, breaking free from the darkness. I was not alone anymore. I felt the burn of the light all around me, dragging me upward until the shadows faded into nothing. My feet landed softly on the ground, and I opened my eyes in shock. I was no longer in the chamber. Instead, I stood in a vast forest, sunlight filtering through leaves overhead. Birds chirped cheerfully, but a sense of unease gripped me. The girl was a few steps away, her expression brightening as I regained my bearings. You made it! She exclaimed, excitement colored with relief. But we have to move. They'll come for you. Who? What was that? I gasped, trying to catch my breath while taking in my new surroundings. The forest felt alive yet foreign, with a pungent smell of damp earth. Dark ones, she explained, glancing nervously over her shoulder. "They won't let you escape so easily." Before I had a chance to ask more, the ground trembled beneath us. My heart sank at the thought of the shadows reappearing. "We have to go now," she urged, and I followed as she turned and sprinted deeper into the trees that we weaved through the thick underbrush, adrenaline pushing me forward. "Wait," I said, straining to keep up. "What is happening? Why are you helping me?" The girl skidded to a halt, spinning to face me. "I'm trapped here too. You're the first person I've seen who can break through." I thought I was completely alone. Her voice shook slightly, revealing the fear she held inside. "Trapped? What do you mean?" I was desperate for answers. Everything felt surreal. "I was pulled into the mirror long ago, like you. I've been searching for a way out ever since." She looked down, her expression turning grave. "But time is different here. I don't know how long I've been gone." A chill ran down my spine. I was now completely lost in a place I did not understand. "How do we escape?" "There's a glade," she started, but a howl cut through the air, low and menacing. "Run!" I shouted, urgency igniting a burst of energy. We dashed forward, fueled by the terror closing in behind us. The forest grew darker, the shadows clung to the trees, slipping through branches like specters. "I can feel them," she shouted, swerving to the right as I followed. "Just a bit further." As we ran, I felt something shift in the air, an electric charge pulsing around us. It was the same energy I had encountered in the chamber. "Look!" I yelled, pointing to a faint glowing ahead. The girl nodded, her eyes wide. "What is it?" she asked, but there was no time for explanations. We were almost there when a shadow suddenly lunged from the trees, tackling me to the ground. I gasped, the wind knocked out of me as it loomed over, looming dark and hungry. "No!" I screamed, fear pushing me to fight. I glanced up, the girl was afraid too, stuck in place as she stared that I could either lie here frozen or tap into whatever power I had felt before. Swallowing my fear, I reached deep inside, searching for strength. Just as the shadow lunged closer, the glowing light erupted from my chest, brighter than before. The dark entity reeled back, shrieking in fury. My thoughts raced. Was this the way out? Or would it lead to another trap? The light pulsed again, and I instinctively reached for the girl. "Come on!" I shouted. "We don't have much time." But then another form emerged from the shadows, a hulking figure behind the girl. "You can't hide from me," it growled, and as I grasped for the light, I knew I had to protect her at any cost. These next moments could define everything. The blaring sunlight of the forest enveloped me, the warmth almost unfathomable after the cold grip of darkness I had just escaped. Still, that comfort was short-lived as I felt an air of imminent danger pressing down around us. The shadows were close, lurking in the underbrush, their growls echoing off the trees like a nightmarish symphony. "Keep moving, just keep moving," I urged the girl, my voice hardly more than a whisper. I could still feel their presence closing in, hungry for the chaos they thrived on. She looked at me, eyes wide, ready to bolt but tethered by uncertainty. "What if they catch us?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Then we'll fight," I said, though inside I felt the weight of fear. But there was no time for doubt, every second wasted could be the difference between escape and a fate worse than death. The glint of something shimmering in the forest drew my eyes ahead. It looked like a glade, with faint light breaking through the trees. "Over there!" I shouted, jumping over a root that threatened to trip me. Without another word, we surged toward the light. The shadows seemed to push against us, I could hear them, feel their hate rolling in waves. As we neared the edge of the glade, the energy crackled around us, more vibrant than I'd ever felt. "Get behind me!" I yelled as I skidded to a halt just before the clearing opened wide. The moment I stepped into the light, I felt a surge of warmth and power radiate from the glowing symbols scattered across the grass, illuminated as if a meager sun had broken through. The girl cowered behind me, her breath quickening, but I could feel the fear where doubt had once resided. "They can't follow us here," I reassured her, though I wasn't entirely certain. Yet, what I felt right then was enough an instinctual knowledge that this place might hold the key to our survival. Suddenly, dark figures lurked at the borders of the clearing, their forms undulating like smoke. A growling beast emerged from the shadows, more substantial than the rest, its eyes filled with a predatory hunger. "Foolish mortals!" it snarled, its voice dripping with disdain. "You think you can escape? Stay back!" I shouted, my heart racing as I stepped forward, instinctively shielding the girl behind me. The symbols began to pulse in response, the ground vibrating beneath our feet. That I focused on the power the glade released, willing it to rise and shield us. "Take form! Protect us!" I shouted, and both the ground and the air responded. The symbols firestormed alive, bright light emanating, forcing the shadows to convulse. A barrier formed between us and the dark entity, a shimmering shield of pure energy. That I glanced back at the girl. "We can hold them off," I shouted, but doubt gnawed at the edges of my mind. "Were we merely buying time?" the beast hissed, slamming against the barrier, throwing all its weight against the brightness. "You will not break free," it bellowed. "Stay strong." I felt my own energy channeling into the symbols, drawing strength from the ground and the light. "We are not alone here." With those words, I felt the presence of others, shadows of souls long lost gathering around us, allies trapped in misery, joining our fight. Their sorrow mingled with our determination, and I centered on the girl's face, her shine flickering like hope. "Now!" I yelled, pushing forward. "Push the light back at it. Channel everything you have." With a nod, she reached out towards me, fingers desperately grasping for the light we conjured. In unison, we extended our arms. The barrier flared, and with a mighty surge, the light erupted forward, washing over the looming darkness like an unstoppable tide. "No!" The shadow beast howled as the light hit it, incandescent brilliance obliterating its form. It writhed in pain, shrieking in terror as the shadows around it recoiled against the incandescence. As the dark entity disintegrated into nothingness, the remaining shadows faded into the trees, retreating from the clutches of the vibrant light. The air around us shimmered, still buzzing with residual energy even as calm settled once. We stood breathing heavily, glancing around at the clearing. "Did we do it?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper, eyes bright with disbelief. "Maybe," I replied hesitantly, still not sure. I glanced toward the trees, their boughs hanging heavy with secrets. We had escaped, but had we truly broken free? But just as relief washed over us, the ground beneath us trembled. A distant roar echoed, sending tremors through the earth. My heart sank. "We have to go," I urged again, grasping her hand tightly, and as we turned to flee, uncertain of what lay ahead, an echo of whispered voices lingered in the back of my mind, haunting yet alluring, reminding me that darkness does not easily let go. As we dashed through the trees, the light moving with us like a shield, I couldn't shake the feeling that the battle was far from over. Though we had found a moment of clarity, shadows still lingered, waiting patiently for our return. Would we see it again? I couldn't imagine ever escaping its grasp entirely. I turned one last time to look at the glade, its brilliance and serenity offering a glimmer of hope. And as we disappeared into the forest, I knew this wasn't the end of our story. They were out there, watching, and we'd need every ounce of courage to face the challenges ahead.